Rights are not involving the services and goods of third persons. Sorry, I just have to put this out there because I, posted on a Huffington Post article from a guy who is lamenting that he didn't get the proper education needed in his Hebrew school. And the comments that I received back from, my suggestion that rights cannot extend to services and goods provided by third persons, in other words, compelling third-party persons to provide you a service or good, people actually thought that that was an illegitimate concept. In other words, if you look at it from a principle perspective, you can compel third persons to give you a good or service through the threats of or use of violence. So the short of it is that education, right? A right to education. How do you define that? Well, rights, if we're looking at a natural rights perspective, can only be about what you can do for yourself or voluntarily exchange with others. So how you teach yourself, how you learn with others, or how you voluntarily exchange to get an education. You cannot compel a third person, and this is often done through taxation, money taken from you forcibly and then redistributed to you, and then compel a teacher to say, okay, you're going to have to teach these kids what to learn, because the underlying principle is that theft and then the threat of violence if you don't send your children to school or an equivalent is somehow morally legitimate is completely wrong. So just taking a quick look at some of these notes. So, it's... Oops, sorry, there's a little bit of a window here. It says, of course, education is right in the same way medical care is a right, okay? Medical care and education are not rights. You cannot force a third person to provide you a good or service. Natural rights theory, or even morally or philosophically. And that's a really big distortion among people in a governmental system, is that they think, oh, I have a right to a third person's good or service. Because it's already, the premise of government using taxation, in other words, goods and services provide the barrel of a gun. The government's goods and services, through taxation, if you don't pay, they come at you with agents who have guns. That whole concept is perverting the idea of rights, because people are getting confused about what a right is. A natural right is something that you provide yourself or can voluntarily exchange for. Nobody has a right to provide you education, but you have a right to learn. You have a right to voluntarily exchange for information. But people don't seem to really get this. And actually, one of the interesting conflicts in our system, actually someone puts it right here, just double check. It says the Sixth Amendment gives you rights to have assistance counsel criminal trial. Yes, it does, and actually it didn't used to involve a third-party attorney, like public defenders. You had the right to defend yourself or to find an attorney. But the perversion of rights has come to the point where third parties are forced to give you services, and how do they provide for it? That is the government. They tax you, and if you don't pay, it's the threat of force, so they can take your property or put you in jail, or even worse, if you resist with violence, maybe even kill you. And this is a problem. And people need to understand the inherent immorality of extending rights beyond an individual aspect, okay? If you are suggesting that a third person owes you some sort of duty without a voluntary exchange, you are effectively advocating slavery, because you are saying that somebody is compelled to give you a good or service, and if they don't, then it's right for you to enact violence against them. And the even bigger perversion with education is that there's this right to go to school or something like that. It's not. The sicker part is that the government says, send your kids here, or find an equivalent, homeschool, stuff like that, or we take your kids from you with CPS under Parens Patriae doctrine, that the state is the ultimate arbiter of the relationship as derived from the state being a party to contract and marriage with mother and father. This perversion that you don't send your kids to the government and they take them from you. That's the inherent underlying immorality. Is education is not only compulsory, that the funding for it came from theft, but the government forces you to their camps, and if you don't follow to their camps, well, then they reserve a right to take your kids from you and possibly put you into jail, or even worse, if you resist with violence. So I just really want to clarify that. It's so important. People don't really understand how important it is to grasp what a right is and to distinguish it from third-party compulsory theft. Alright, hope that was informative because I'm sacrificing sleep for my early morning National Security Law class and my TSA paper that's coming up. That'll be released very soon. I think people are going to really enjoy it. It's going to get some circulation. Alright, take care, guys.